Thank you all. Thanks for coming. I appreciate it, especially on this this day with this terrible weather. But I woke up this morning, I expected it to be a lot worse, and it really wasn't that bad. It was the old 1:30 wake-up call, which is really the not going to sleep call. We were on the radio this morning. But yeah, it wasn't too bad out there, thank God. So thank you for coming. Thank you to Heritage. And special thank you to my friend Cully for really providing some sage advice over the last couple of years in a number of different aspects of my life. Thank you for having me and constantly being available, even though I probably annoy you on your cell phone more than you'd care to. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I want to talk for about 15 or 20 minutes, and I'd like to start with my job with the NYPD, with the police department, and how it changed my internal compass. And it was a strange occurrence I had with a young man that's in the book. Then I'd like to just delve into a bit in some of the Secret Service years and some of the people I met with and how I just found it to be an incredible experience. And I just want to leave it with my sense of, I guess we could call it frustration, and the reason I left, and this kind of battle, the friction I had had between my experiences with really good people and what I saw as an institutional problem with the government and its failure to do even the easy things well, and the reason I walked away. But starting with my police experience, I never actually wanted to be a police officer. I wanted to go to medical school. I wanted to be a doctor. I took the MCATs not too long ago, actually. I was watching Grey's Anatomy with my wife and my type A personality. I said, I think I'm going to take the MCATs. She said, well, nobody just thinks they're going to take the MCATs. I said, no, I'm going to. I did pretty well. Unfortunately, I didn't get in. But yeah, that's a whole other story. But yeah, I never wanted to be a police officer. But I talk about in the opening of the book a childhood that, and I don't mean this to be a sob story by any stretch. I think it's our scars that make us who we are. I worship every lump in those scars. It really made me who I am today, and it enabled me to see that there is real evil in the world. And I think that's sometimes a perspective on the liberal left that gets lost. If you don't understand that, it's very difficult to find a policy prescription forward. But we had a household that had been ravaged by a bad divorce, some income problems, and a family member who thought that child abuse, physical abuse was an appropriate outlet for his internal rage. And when you're a young kid witnessing that, it's tough. You feel about as helpless as you've ever felt in your life when you were a 9-year-old and a 10-year-old, and you're watching this happen, and there's nothing you can do. It's disturbing, and I found peace and just serenity only in the police officers when they would show up. It seemed to be the only thing this individual in our life that had caused all this pain was afraid of. Nothing else. I mean, there was really no man or woman that scared him except for the blue uniform. And I remember thinking that one night, and I documented in the book, when it really had gotten chaotic and out of control, I remember seeing the police officers show up and saying, wow, like what a job. You are meeting people and worlds are colliding at their absolute lowest. That for me was the lowest it had gotten. The pain and the fear was incredible, and you have the ability to turn it around like that. And I thought, I've got to at least try it. So that's what led me to the New York City Police Department. Of course, started an idealist. I think we all do in law enforcement. And I tell the story in the book about being on the street one night. And I'm doing a 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. shift. It's quite busy. It was a 7-5 precinct. We had T-shirts made up. There's a radio station in New York, 1010 Wins for any, the station. Yeah, 1010 Wins. It's kind of a news station. They had an expression, you give us 10 minutes, we'll give you the world. Well, the precinct I was in, the 7-5 precinct, which was East New York, Brooklyn, was very busy. There was a drug war going on between a lot of the different rival projects in the neighborhood. It was kind of like a turf war. There was something like 300 homicides the year before I had gotten there in that one precinct. Now, put that in perspective, 300 homicides. The entire city of Baltimore last year had 200. This was one of 78 precincts. So it was an extremely tough area. And it really was a rude awakening, for a young 20-year-old, especially a young 20-year-old idealist who thought he could change the world in one fell swoop. It was tough. But I was standing on the corner one night, and I saw this young kid who I'd seen quite a bit. I don't know how old he was. He may have been 10, 11. Needless to say, he should not have been out on the street at the time of night I was out on the street. It was probably midnight or 1 a.m. And for some reason, I struck him. I struck a conversation up with him that night. And I remember saying to him, what do you want to do when you grow up? And he looked at me quizzically, as if the question had really baffled him. Like he never thought about what to do when you grow up, what that really meant. He clearly didn't have an answer. So I said, what do you want to, what do you want to do? You want to be a doctor, an engineer, a lawyer? What do you want to do? I mean, what's your job? How do you want to make money? And he said to me, I want to be like AZ. And I thought, did you say Jay-Z? Now, at the time, Jay-Z was an up-and-coming rapper in New York in that area. Wasn't as famous as he is today. And I thought, okay, he wants to be Jay-Z. And he said to me, no, not Jay-Z. I want to be AZ. And for a second, I had to think about it. I thought, AZ was one of these local drug dealer kids who was a real punk. But once in a while, he'd put on a performance in the little like atrium, like open area in the middle of the housing projects. And it occurred to me, it was really almost a transformative moment, that his America was not ours. There's no question about it. He did not only not want to be Jay-Z, he wanted to be AZ. That to me was staggering. I was almost okay with. And I could not get this kid out of my mind. I remember it wasn't a long commute home. I actually lived in the bordering neighborhood, right over the hill, as they said, Cypress Hill. And I couldn't get him out of my head, thinking, how is it that this part of New York, centrally located, it was probably no more than 20 minutes from Manhattan, right off the Bell Parkway, right off the Jackie Robinson Parkway. You know the area I'm talking about? It could not be more geographically suited to economic growth. What is wrong? I mean, the big question, not why are there potholes in the street? Why is there an elevated grand larceny auto number in this precinct? What is wrong with this particular area? It seemed to me that no one could answer the big questions. I mean, what, did a nuclear bomb go off here? It didn't make any sense. This kid was no different, it didn't seem when you got him in a conversation, than I was when I was 9 or 10, yet his America wasn't mine. The idea of being a doctor, writing a book, an engineer had never even occurred to him. And I thought that there's something going on here that I have to have some role in changing. And it really sparked an interest, not particularly in politics, as we would think, at political races and candidates, but it sparked an interest in me in ideology, liberal versus conservative, libertarian versus green, economic ideology, Austrian school versus Chicago school, that there's got to be an answer here. And whatever answer there is, clearly wasn't implemented here. And I would dig and I would dig, and I started and that's eventually how I found the Secret Service. I was reading a book called Mindhunter, and I was going to go into the FBI after that. Mindhunter was about their profiling program, and I was in graduate school at the time studying neuropsychology, and I really found that fascinating. But I was explaining to this woman I was running next to on a treadmill, who happened to be a police officer one day, who had worked with the Secret Service, that I was really fascinated by this, the politics of it and ideology. And she says, well, I really think you need to check out the Secret Service. Looking back, to be fair and self-critical, which is I think is important, it was probably the wrong call. I should not have enmeshed myself in a political process that I knew was watering a seed that was only going to grow and eventually sprout a tree that was going to rupture the concrete. I just didn't expect it to really become part of me as it did. I thought politics, economic ideology would be a secondary interest, and it wasn't. But I found the Secret Service, and I loved the job. I say to people all the time, it's the closest thing to being famous without anybody knowing who you are. There's none of the downsides. But you get to live this life and be part of government at the absolute highest levels. It was an incredible experience. Matter of fact, Ian, who's sitting right over there. I hope I didn't